This video is brought to you by how this awkward non-kissing moment initially irritated the frick out of me. More on that later. Welcome loons, goons, and anyone ready to swoon. I'm Sarah and I love to talk about TV and movies and all things romance, so that is what we're doing here. My heated rivalry obsession continues. Like, I just want to have this show shot into my veins or something. I have so many thoughts on it, so we're going scene by scene dissecting all these beautiful moments. And we are still coming from a slightly different location than normal, as we're still having some row work going on outside. And this room here is like a little bit more quiet in that regard. So hopefully there won't be any outside noise carrying through all the mics. Crossing our fingers. If you're unfamiliar with heated rivalry, it follows Shane Hollander and Ilya Rosanov through their hockey careers. They are rivals on the ice, but they are secretly falling in love off of it. In this video here, we are continuing on our analysis of the infamous room 1410 scene here in Shane's hotel room, where the spicy things are, you know, spicying. But as I said last time, it isn't all spice. There is so much more to look at here and to learn about Shane and Ilya's love story, as well as like a lot of fun like analysis moment to dive into here, because I love to dive into a lot of different things and go on a lot of tangents. So if you also are loving that, you can find a playlist in the description with my yappity analysis of all the scenes until now. And without further ado, let's dive into it. This video contains spoilers for Heated Rivalry Season 1. We're made it to room 1410, or I guess like room 1410 2.0, because as I said, we started diving into the scene in the previous video. I had to divide it up because honestly, there are just too many thoughts. Like the last part is like 50 minutes long, so if I had to combine them to one, we would be here for like, I don't even want to think about how long. If you haven't seen it yet, I will put it somewhere so you can like click along to catch up to now, and it'll also be like in the playlist, of course. As in the last video, we're gonna have to do a lot of blurring and censoring of words and so on in this video here. As you know, the show is like a little bit explicit and we have to keep the YouTube guards happy, so we need to do some censoring. So just be aware of that if you're hearing some coded language from time to time. In the first part of this encounter here, we saw Shane a bit nervous, wanting to talk, and Ilya kind of like wanting to get down to business, but doing it like more gentle and in an encouraging way that also left room to follow Shane's comfort. And Ilya very much wanted to savor this moment here to like soak up everything that Shane has to offer. And we saw them both get very comfortable with each other quite quickly. You know, they have both been anticipating and waiting for this moment for so long, even though there was like some initial nerves. You know, we quickly got into it as well. That just had the most cute, delicious first kiss ever. We also learned that this is Shane's first time being intimate with a man, and that Ilya has done this before with the coach's son back in Russia. But now that we've had this little check-in, they are ready to get back into the spice of it all, with Ilya asking, "Want me to lie on the bed and let you kiss on me some more?" A fun little banter moment between them. And we are like moving from like the hallway area of the hotel room and into like the bedroom area of the hotel room. And as we in the previous scene saw Ilya walk Shane gently up to the wall and they had that little kissing here, now we're seeing Shane in this flirty banter vibe walking Ilya towards the bed and kind of like pushing him onto it, showing more how Shane is getting into the moment and the vibe and just going with the fun, flirty, intimate feelings. You see that Shane pushes Ilya on the bed, but then he doesn't really do anything else with it. He's kind of just standing there, waiting and watching as Ilya gets undressed. He doesn't really know what to do, I think, here. Like, what is like the next move? And even as Ilya tells Shane to get undressed, he doesn't do it immediately. Just saying, "You saw me in the shower, like, you see me naked, why do you want to see me naked as well?" Which shows that Shane doesn't just blindly follow Ilya, even though, as we talked about, there is this like soft power exchange dynamic thing in their interactions, in their like relationship. But Shane doesn't just, you know, follow whatever command that Ilya has. You know, he still does things within his comfort. But I also think that there is some, I don't know, nervous energy or something to it. And that's why Shane isn't just like immediately getting dressed as well. And that also is like now this physical distance between them as Ilya is on the bed and Shane is standing. So he can't like be swept up so much in like the moment as he could earlier when they were like so close. And he could just like, you know, drink up all of Ilya like right in his face. So I think that also is bringing him a bit more back into his head and into his overthinking. But also, what is like the plan here, Shane? Like, are we not supposed to like get like nude together? Like, isn't that kind of what it's building up to? And also like what he is like indicating that he wants. And as like the scene goes on, we know that he definitely wants them to be undressed together, right? So like, I don't know, I'm like a little unsure why he's like so hung up on not like following and copying what Ilya is doing here. Maybe you guys have some thoughts on it, like let me know. I do think that like them like undressing differently, or how you say, is showing a bit like difference in their personality and so their comfort in a moment like this. It shows how Ilya is like more confident in his physical appearance. He shows it off a lot throughout the show. Also in a way that kind of like puts this emotional distance to other people, as we were talking about like in the shower scene. It almost is this front that he has on for others and kind of like what he thinks is all he's good for. And Shane is not so confident in his physical appearance, at least like not in an intimate setting like this. And maybe it also is like that Shane doesn't really think that Ilya is like as into him as he is into Ilya, like not wanting to assume anything or something. But Ilya saying that he wants to see more of Shane, it kind of like convinces him to get undressed, and he folds his clothes as he does this, which is just such a cute little touch to Shane's personality. Like he kind of has this like set way of doing things, and when you get undressed, you fold your clothes naturally. And you can just see how much Ilya likes this and finds this so cute and adorable. Like he is just so delighted by Shane and how he is folding his clothes. Like this is so unlike Ilya and probably the other people that Ilya has been intimate with in the past. To fold your clothes and not just like throw them off as you jump into bed. And I think it just makes him like even more enamored with Shane to see this. He's breathing very heavily. As Shane has disrobed, except for the socks, like those are staying on, he moves closer to the bed, but then he again kind of like waits, kind of unsure, not really knowing what to do. And seeing Shane here looking down on himself, it just made me so uncomfortable. Was anyone also feeling that? Like he's just is so uncomfortable being nude here, not knowing what to do. Luckily, Ilya to the rescue, telling Shane to get on the bed. He follows Ilya's lead to get on the bed, and they're lying here next to each other. And here again, the camera is giving us this like fly on the wall feeling. We're going on this like wider shot as opposed to what have just been of cutting back and forth between the characters as they were getting undressed. And now it's just hovering around, like floating in the space as if we're just like part of the air or something, which also was kind of happening like in the previous part of the scene with the kissing. We also had this like fly on the wall feeling, but in this scene here where we're getting like even more explicit, it makes me feel even more intimate and even more like it's something we're not supposed to be watching. It's giving this kind of like voyeuristic feeling to it. And we're also getting like a glimpse of the mirror in the frame as they're lying here. And the mirror, as we have talked about, it's like this motif throughout the show of the duality of things. How is your public self and the private self? How do you kind of like show up? But also kind of this self-reflection of self-identity. So it's showing up in the scene here is of course done with a reason. To me, it's this worry of outside perspective that kind of is like floating around on the outskirts of the mind. And it keeps showing up throughout the scene when we're getting this like wider shot in between their activities, showing a symbol that the worry of fitting into heteronormativity is always kind of there. This moment here when we see them lying on the bed, it kind of annoyed me a little bit when I saw it first. And I think, like I talked about in previous videos, It's because I didn't really understand what they were trying to do when I first watched the first episode. Because my thinking when I saw Shane get on the bed was like, what are we doing? Like, they're just gonna be lying here awkward next to each other? Why are they not like throwing themselves at each other? Why are they not kissing? Why is something not like happening? Like, shouldn't something be happening here? And I think it's like I'm just so used to that happening in media, like when there are intimate scenes, it kind of is like just getting right into it. Of course, there are nuances to it, and you know, there also are other shows and movies where awkwardness and unsureness and testing out with intimacy is part of the story and can give some awkward feelings, but like nothing like I was feeling here. But that is, of course, exactly the point where I was supposed to feel awkward, because that's how the characters feel, and maybe especially Shane is feeling. You know, they're not supposed to just jump right into it, because that's not what they would be doing. And I love this. Now that I understand what they're trying to do with this show, I love how they are portraying intimacy as part of like the narration or narrative plot line, what you call it, and showing a realness in how, you know, intimacy is out in the real world, and there's awkward moments. Everything that is happening here is like so true to how the characters would be behaving. Shane doesn't really know what to do so much here, so Ilya is more setting the tone and taking the lead, but with room to follow within Shane's boundaries. Like, he doesn't want to overwhelm Shane, he wants to go at Shane's pace. Ilya literally asks Shane, what do you want to do? And when Shane doesn't know, Ilya takes a beat to look at him, to kind of like observe, like, where is he at and what would he be okay with? Is he, you know, open for things or not? And he kind of like assesses before he does anything. And when he does physically touch Shane, he is checking in that it's okay. And we're getting confirmation that it is. As I talked about in the previous video, with the start of this scene and their kissing, there is just so much, you know, consent checking in on both of their parts. And that also is just such a big part of the show and how they're like telling their show. Like, consent is very important, and consent is set up in this way that is really great and shows that it doesn't have to be like an awkward part of intimacy. It's just a natural, fun part of it. You know, we see that here with Shane and Ilya, and also when we get later to Scott and Kip and other romantic pairings. Consent is always present in the relationships. And Shane is very into this whole thing here. He really wants to do all of these things and experience all of these things with Ilya. He just needs like a little bit of help to get out of his head. And as we're also seeing, you know, the shift here of Ilya initiating something, we also see the motif of the mirror be cut out with the framing. And with that, like the symbol of this like overthinking of outside perspective also pushed away. But Shane isn't receiving this physical touch from Ilya for very long. He is such a, like, for lack of a better word, a pleaser. And he does have a bit of an oral fixation as well. And he already was kind of like testing out this activity and interest in the front room of the hotel earlier, and he already knows that he enjoys this, so he wants to explore it further. I also could imagine that Shane has thought about this a lot, like trying not to think about it, but thinking about it a lot, and the thoughts just keep popping into his head, and he just can't help himself to go for it here. Like, he already explored a bit with Ilya at the door, and you know, he knows it's something that he enjoys, so he wants to experience more of it. And as I talked about previously, when he gets out of his head, he goes for what he wants. And I also think that Shane, you know, he wants to please Ilya. Like, he wants to show he's good at something. He wants to get the praise for doing something good. Like, I think that's also part of it. Like, he really enjoys making Ilya feel good and to get these, you know, reactions out of Ilya with what he is doing. And again, taking actions of his desire, which is also such an important point of this story, I think, of, you know, when you are true to yourself, when you are with someone that, you know, you are attracted to and you're having a good connection with and a good vibe with, like, you're just so much more enthusiastic about what you're doing and enjoying yourself so much more with what you're doing. And so again, Shane taking action of his desire is just, it's just perfect. It's just so good. It's so important. And he is in this moment with someone he is actually attracted to that he doesn't know if he will ever get to be with again. Like, I think Shane is just so hot for Ilya here that he kind of just needs to have him. At the edge of the frame here, we are seeing a bit more of the mirror again. Like I said, the motif of duality, the private and public version of the characters, but it also is the reflection of yourself and facing the true you. And it popping up here in the first hookup also to show the symbol of the internal struggles that will be throughout the show, and that puts up obstacles for, you know, being true to yourself and being true to everyone around you about yourself. Previously, when we were seeing the montage scene of Shane and Ilya getting ready for the meetup here, we saw them both looking like directly into a mirror. And for Shane, it was literally this mirror here where he was facing himself as he was getting ready and symbolically facing, you know, what he wanted to do with the meetup here and what it meant to him. And Shane was very freaking out then, but now it feels like this inner turmoil is like, you know, pushed to the peripheral. It's still kind of there, but it's pushed more away. And as we cut from like the wider shot where we're seeing this mirror reflection, as they're getting into like the positions, we're now like pulling more into the moment, pulling more into focusing on them, and the mirror isn't there anymore. So it kind of is like symbolically this worry of self-perception is pushed away as well. When we talk about the framing, that's also made a difference in how we're seeing Shane, you know, pleasing Ilya, and then later Ilya pleasing Shane, and how the camera is set up and the cuts are done. Of course, that also could be, you know, to make the scene more interesting. You know, I don't want to just see the same thing and do the same thing over and over. I mean, you could, but, you know, you also want to make some interest and change things up a bit. But when we're overanalyzing things here and putting symbolism onto everything, I feel like you also can put some symbolism in the difference of how the camera is framing up these very similar activities, and then kind of showing how the characters are approaching this activity differently. When we see here Shane like on Ilya, we're cutting to a more close-up of Ilya, and Shane is not very like present in the frame. From this, I'm kind of getting that Shane is like disappearing all the way into Ilya's pleasure, into what he is doing to Ilya. And later when we then see Ilya on Shane, we're getting a bit wider shot, also cutting a bit back and forth, but more in like a wider where we see both of them. And from this, it gives to me that Ilya is kind of more there with Shane, like taking the pleasure from him. Is this getting too over-analyzing niche or something? Maybe. I think so. Probably. What do you think? Like, are you also getting some symbolism meaning from these shots? I don't know. I just think it's fun to dive all the way into things like this. Let me know what you think. We are in the throes of passion and pleasure here for Ilya, as Shane is like continuing his oral explorations. And it gets very like pinnacle and he Bridgerton fancier. Which when I saw this the first time, I was like, whoa, like this is intense. Should we be watching this? I don't think we should be watching this. Like it was very like maybe we need a water break now. Like Ilya needed the hydration break in the last video, and yeah, I think we need it now. But we're also getting some little sweet cute moments here, even as Ilya is getting to his pinnacle. He is moving Shane out of the way before he like fully enjoys himself. Ilya knows that this is Shane's first time, so he hasn't done anything like this before, and this can be a lot and might not be something that someone would want, even, you know, if it's not their first time. And so I kind of like how Ilya is taking the decision away from Shane and not kind of like putting more on him, like just letting him experience these things little by little, I suppose. But also I love when then Shane is kind of like pulling away after Ilya pulls him to him and kisses him. Like, no, you come here. Like, this was so hot for Ilya. And again, as I said also previously, I think being here with Shane is like way hotter than he thought it would be, which I'm getting from Ilya's expression as he lies back here afterwards. Like, his expression is just so, whoa, like, shit. He's kind of like, damn, that was so good. And it's his first time. What? But, you know, he can't just say that. Like, he can't reveal how freaking hot it was. He needs to get his, like, you know, cocky, confident self on. So he gets a little bantery instead. And which is why Ilya breaks it, you know, with a joke instead. And kind of like a deprecating joke, telling Shane not bad for first time. Like, dude, come on. That was an epic first time. Like, I was yelling at my TV at this point. Like, come on. That was like, you know? Come on, Ilya. Be for real. And then Ilya also makes to leave as if he's gonna get up. Like, oh, this was fun. See ya. Which has caused a lot of debates in my household. Like, about, like, post clarity and the like. But for me, I'm saying this with my full chest. This is said as a joke. I don't think it's like Ilya being like, oh, this is too much. I actually want to leave now. This is just, you know, Ilya being his bantery self and him having a bit of a hard time with being real and being vulnerable. And I think this behavior and banter thing is also how he communicates with other people he is intimate with. As I was mentioning when we were breaking down the locker scene after the shower, how we see Ilya interact with Svetlana, whom is Ilya's best friend, but also someone he has a casual, intimate relationship with. And what is like hinted at with Sasha, Ilya's former coach's son back in Russia, whom he had an intimate relationship with as well, and was his first queer experience. I could totally imagine Ilya saying something similar to them, and them responding back with some chirpy banter thing. Like this feisty playfulness. But Shane isn't hearing this as like a playful banter chirp. He is like thinking that Ilya is for real and is kind of like offended and taking it back and doesn't know how to respond to it. And Shane's reaction here gives Ilya pause. This banterness is not really how Shane communicates, at least not yet, and not here. Like, this is very unknown for him, and he kind of gets in his head again a bit. Shane and Ilya's interactions need to be different. And so Ilya rolls on Shane, and you immediately see how Shane, he just lights up. He just calms down and he has this smile. Like, he's just, they're closer now and also like touching, and so like there's more of a connection here. You know, Ilya is just joking around, and they also get like a little more playful here in this moment, talking about how Shane just thinks that Ilya is an asshole and would just leave him, you know, unsatisfied. And I also just love this, you think I'm asshole. Just so good. So many of these lines are just perfect and live in my head rent-free. But it also gives like some indication of the reputation that Ilya has. But Ilya is not an asshole. Like, he is chirpy and cocky, like outwardly, but he's not an asshole, and he's not an asshole in situations like this. And as we're also seeing like throughout the show, whenever Shane tells Ilya that he's like an asshole or something like this, it's not really meant harsh, it's more meant as an endearment. So I feel like maybe you also could see it like that here. Ilya makes it clear, you know, that he isn't like that. He isn't just gonna leave Shane hanging. And he very enthusiastically returns the favor to Shane. And with Shane not really knowing how to react to this, like obviously he really wants it, but he also kind of looks like he's holding on for dear life. As Ilya is like getting himself into position, we see Shane like clutching onto his hands. And throughout this like activity, he's holding onto Ilya like he doesn't know what to do. His brain is like having an explosion on dopamine or something. And as we talked about earlier, how Shane hasn't really had intimate experiences that he's really felt, you know, into and comfortable with and truly excited for. So it's easy to imagine that this moment is kind of insane to him. He's already had some like glimpses of like the excitement between them and, you know, the excitement of what they already have been doing. He probably, you know, has been feeling and thinking a lot about it, but like actually being here and experiencing it must be so freaking wild. And I completely understand like holding on for dear life and like both looking like he wants to like push it away and get it closer, like just freaking overwhelming. So many thoughts, like overstimulating mentally and physically and always. And the acting here is just so freaking good. Like everything in the show just feels so real. But this is just, I don't know, it's so masterful. How all the camera angles are, and we're getting these like long cuts. We're really getting this feeling like we're intruding on this moment here, and with how Shane is like throwing his head around, like, I don't know, I just feel so like I'm not supposed to be seeing this. I do really think we need some water now. And Ilya is taking all that Shane has to offer. Like, he's not missing out on anything. And after Ilya has, you know, gotten all he could, all the enjoyment he could, there is this little, like, kiss, like this little peck on, you know, like, followed by this, like, buddy dude bro slap on Shane's stomach. And it just always takes me out, bro. Like, it's so cheeky, it's so cocky, it's so Ilya. They're both lying here in bed now afterwards, and we see how Ilya is like observing Shane, trying to see how he is doing, and Shane is like freaking out a little bit. But initially it feels more like this, holy shit, that was so good and so intense and my toes are tingling. And then they're having this like little laughing moment about it together, about how Shane's mind is totally blown. And Shane, you know, he doesn't really know how to put it into words. All he can say is that was, but he doesn't need to explain it really, because Ilya kind of knows what he is feeling and thinking, and he just says yes, yes, yes. Like, it's just so good. Like, they're having this little, you know, inside joke or something. Like, even if Shane doesn't have the words, he doesn't need to, because Ilya has experienced similar and probably knows like what he is feeling. Not exactly, but he, you know, at least knows and understands what it's like to have your first queer experience. And of course, this also has been, you know, an intense, undescribable, amazing experience for Ilya. And they both don't need to put into words to know how the other one is feeling, experiencing this moment together, and the surrealism of the whole encounter. And Ilya really wants a cigarette now, which is kind of like an ongoing discussion thing or something, because Shane tells him, you shouldn't smoke, it's bad for you. And this kind of makes a little blip, or what you call it, and kind of breaks the post-intimate bliss bubble that there is, and makes Shane go from the holy shit freak out to actual freak out mode and into damage control. Like, he just had this insanely hot experience, but he shouldn't have found it that hot because it's not what he's supposed to do and no one can know about it. And Shane is not understanding that. Of course, Ilya isn't going to say anything because they're both, you know, playing this very conservative sport. But Ilya is also from this very conservative country where he doesn't even want to think about the possible consequences of being an out queer person. But Shane doesn't understand like the Russia of it all here. He's only kind of like thinking from his own point of view and his own freak out about being outed. As we talked about in the previous video, is also is kind of like hinted at the fact that Ilya isn't gonna say anything when they were talking about how Ilya had had a previous experience with his coach's son, but he wasn't like, you know, afraid of being outed because they had the same secret. And this was like between the lines saying we're on the same page about not wanting to be outed. So if none of us say anything, it's all good. Like, this was Ilya saying, yeah, I'm gonna keep it a secret because I don't want to be outed, and you can be safe with me because I don't want to out you either. This to me also kind of brings it back to Ilya in that conversation jokingly saying, I like trouble. Like, here it's clear that there is more to it, that he does know and he does worry about like the consequences of someone finding out that he's queer. It isn't just whatever to him, as he was kind of making it seem earlier. And I also kind of think that Ilya is a bit offended that Shane would think that he would just tell other people. So Shane needing like confirmation of like, oh yeah, you're not gonna say anything is kind of a little offensive to Ilya. And also because Russia, like obviously Ilya is not gonna say anything. So he does confirm to Shane that he isn't going to tell anyone, and he tries to make sure that Shane believes him this time. With the spell broken, Ilya gets to leave, like he gets up and he gets dressed. To get dressed, Ilya moves to the other side of the room, creating distance between them. And Shane does the same, moving backwards in the bed, furthering the distance. It's also here that we see the mirror motif pops back up again. It's very clear that there are emotional distance between them here, and emotionally they're covering up. Ilya in his clothes and Shane by crossing his arms. But I love how we see him get dressed, because he isn't just, putting on his clothes. He's putting on his clothes while he is looking towards Shane in the bed, seeing how Shane is doing. We also see Ilya do this like little check-ins later, like in episode 2, for example, when he says he has to go, but checks in and makes sure that Shane is like acknowledging that it's okay for him to do so. Which, of course, like, I think Shane would want him to stay in that scene, but he can't really say that. So, the communication is not the best. And of course, the aftercare and all of this and cuddle time could be way better. But at least, there is some care shown from Ilya to Shane to be sure that he is okay, even here in like their first intimate meetup. Even when Ilya is a bit hurt of how it's ending. And also shows a lot of like just Ilya as a character and as a, person, that he cares for the partners that he is with and want to be sure that they are okay, like after the intimate time. He isn't gonna like be cuddling Shane here in this moment, but he still, wants to have an eye on Shane. And probably he would want to cuddle like deep down, though I don't think that's something that we like see for a while, but like way deep down, he probably really wanted some more like physical like intimacy, not spicy intimacy, but just like physical intimacy and like contact with Shane. But he couldn't like be vulnerable like that here, and Shane kind of like put a damper on anything. So the best he can do is just, have a little eye on him. And that also is this like pause as they say goodnight, where Shane, he isn't really engaging. Like, it feels like he's retreating in and that he needs like space to process everything alone. Maybe he also doesn't feel like emotionally safe with Ilya at this point to like get it all out with him here. So they just say goodnight with each other. Ending the meetup as a bit of a face-off, similar to the start of the scene when they were standing in the entryway. But here they're not in the same frame. We need to cut back and forth between them, which is creating this like illusion or imagery of more distance between them, both physically and emotionally. And after Ilya leaves, we hear Shane's holy shit. Like, when he is alone, he lets go of this overthinking thoughts, pent-upness. And I just love this acting here. Like, you can just see like all the million thoughts that's going through Shane's mind here, of being into it, of being into Ilya, but how he can be and how this isn't good, but also it was like the best thing ever. And this is where we leave the scene with this like melancholic excitement and confusion. It feels like there could have been more here before Shane's damage control mode switched the vibe, and how like this goodnight felt like Ilya wanted to say something more, but Shane's mood maybe didn't really make him feel comfortable to do anything else but just say goodnight and leave. And so, this thing kind of just becomes a one-time thing. Ilya is leaving, and, I don't think that either of them are thinking that they're going to be doing this again. They didn't exchange numbers. They didn't, talk about anything, future plans, or would they maybe meeting up at another time? Nothing like that. So we're kind of just left here with this, mind-blowing one-night stand. And that, folks, is a wrap on room 1410. Oh my god, so much freaking build up to this. And also with like how I haven't been getting any videos up for a long time, plus how we needed to split it up. So, a long time to get here. But that just means that we're having like the similar vibe and headspace as Shane and Ilya getting into this scene, right? Like, let's just go with that. You know, it's like method reaction, method analysis, like really feeling the character. I think the whole scene here in room 1410 with like that first private moment and first, you know, real intimate moment is just, it's just so sweet and cute and hot and realistic as well. And just getting us behind the mask of these two beautiful people even more, being able to be themselves. And it's just so sweet to watch how much care there also is for one another. And I just love how everything is shown with the acting, directing, camera, framing, all these like little bits and pieces and moments that go together to create the scene that we're seeing here that makes us feel what we're feeling here. Also, I haven't said this yet, but like shout out to the Foley artists, like the ones that are making all the sound like of, you know, the clothes and other things sound for some special activities. Foley artists are like, I don't know, I just love them so much. They're so cool. So shout out to them because they're really working overtime on this. I see a lot of people talk about them for these, you know, specific activities that we're seeing in the scene here, but I also just love them in general, like with walking in slippers and things like that. You know, it makes the world that we're seeing real because we're hearing the sounds of the world as well. Little tangent, but important, with a shout out for all the cool people that made the show happen. And having these, you know, intimate moments here linger and making us, the audience, feel like the fly on the wall is also so good. Like the cinematography and camera work is just beautiful. Making us feel like, you know, we're like imposing on the moments here, which I also think add to this feeling, as I said, of showing the realness and not showing it in like a fetishizing way or in an objectifying way, but just showing, you know, the love story and the story of self-discovery. Oh, just so beautiful, beautiful, stunning, gorgeous, beautiful. Next, we are going on to Shane's lunch with his parents, Yuna and David, and we're diving a bit more into the dynamics here, like between Shane and Yuna, Shane and David, but also between Yuna and David. Like, there is so much to talk about here. So be sure to tune in next time, hit the subscribe button, get the notifications on so you're not gonna miss it. It'll be out soon, I promise. I'm already working on it. And thank you so much for being here and taking part in over-analyzing this beautiful show. Thank you so much for your patience with me being a bit behind on the uploading schedule, and for all your support and kind words as I was getting like my creative analyzing brain to sync up with my schedule. I hope that we can get like on a better upload schedule after the summer. I'm gonna like work on getting a few videos ready here for the summer period, and then hopefully when we get to the fall I can like get better schedule going so we're able to catch up a bit on the months that we have missed out on. As I have said, I really want to, you know, have this kind of done like when the new season drops. And with my calculation, we're like a little bit behind, but hopefully we can catch up. And if not, I'm sure it will be great and beautiful as well. Like, I really want to get this like yappity over analysis, the proper dedication. Like, there was so much love and care put into the show, and I want to do the same with these videos that I'm putting out about it. So it has to be done right? Yes. And I am so glad that you guys are all, you know, so patient with me to get it out and so encouraging to get it out. I just, you know, I love you guys. And so thank you for being here and for being so lovely. And until I see you next time, remember that being you is always in season. Seasons of sorrow, seasons of sorrow.